Imagine a place hidden deep in the redwood forests of Northern California, where the most powerful men on earth gather in secret. A rustic sign reads, Bohemian Grove. But behind it lies a world, sealed off by wealth, influence, and a century of silence. Every July, while the rest of us are caught up in the news cycle, an exclusive circle of US presidents, generals, billionaires, and bankers quietly disappears. They call it a retreat, a 2-week escape for recreation. But history suggests it's where the real work of shaping our world begins. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a tradition, and it's over 150 years old. Founded back in 1872 by San Francisco journalists and artists, the Grove was originally meant to be a refuge from the grind of industrial life. But as the decades passed, the artists and poets were replaced by moguls and magnates. Campfire songs slowly morphed into strategic planning sessions, and the laughter of creators was drowned out by the quiet whispers of power. America's cultural escape had become its shadow government's summer home. By the 1930s, the guest list was a who's who of a bygone era. We have photos of Herbert Hoover roasting marshmallows alongside executives from Standard Oil and JP Morgan. Think about that. During World War II, this is where planners of the Manhattan Project met, far from the prying eyes and ears of the press, and completely shielded from public accountability. The atomic age, it turns out, was born under the banner of fellowship and forest retreats. What started as a simple campfire club had transformed into the most exclusive and influential conference on the planet. As the Cold War cast its long shadow, the Grove's roster read like the index of an American history textbook. Eisenhower, Nixon, Reagan, Kissinger, Rockefeller, every major industry had its own camp within the Grove. General Electric, Bechtel, Dow, Chemical, even the Pentagon each had its own circle of tents. Its own rustic bar carved into wood. Decisions that would move billions of dollars, redraw maps, and rewrite foreign policy were toasted with expensive cigars and quiet laughter. The Grove's official motto is, "Weaving spiders come not here," a poetic way of saying leave your business and worldly deals outside. But it was inside those very trees where the most intricate webs of influence were spun. Locals in the small town of Monte Rio have stories. They talk about the motorcades that silently roll through their quiet streets each summer, with blacked-out windows and untraceable license plates. Private security blocks off the roads. Helicopters patrol the tree. Once inside, cell phones are banned. Cameras are forbidden. There are no transcripts, no journalists, no records, just private conversations between the most powerful people on Earth. A senator once joked, the Grove is where grown men play dress-up and decide who runs the country. The joke landed, perhaps because it felt a little too true. Policies that are floated as ideas there later appear as official legislation. Defense budgets, foreign alliances, global energy strategies all are rumored to be whispered first under the redwoods. The media might call it a series of coincidences. History might call it coordination. In 1967, a young California governor named Ronald Reagan attended the Grove for the first time. 4 years later, so did Richard Nixon. Both, of course, would go on to become president. Nixon has owned secret tapes. Capture him calling the Grove's activities the most goddamn faggoty thing he'd ever seen, but he kept going back. Why? Because that's where real power convenes. You don't campaign for it. You get invited into it. Behind the theatrical campfire performances and vintage hymns are private off-the-record gatherings known as lakeside talks. These are essentially high-level policy briefings delivered by CEOs and political strategists. The topics, they've ranged from nuclear deterrence to global banking reform. One attendee famously described the experience as Davos without the journalists. Now, let's talk about the rituals, because they're a key part of the Grove's mystique. Each year, the retreat kicks off with a ceremony called the Cremation of Care. In this elaborate production, robed members burn a wooden effigy named Dull Care before a towering 40-foot owl statue. Officially, it symbolizes leaving your worldly worries behind. But unofficially, it can be seen as a powerful initiation rite cleansing of conscience before making decisions that will impact millions of lives. Psychologists who have analyzed the rare, Leaked footage of this ceremony describe it as a mix of group catharsis and power reinforcement. Imagine, for a moment, world leaders chanting together in the dark, beneath a giant idol, promising to forget. It's not about the occult. It's about psychological armor. And after that fire dies down, the real work begins. The meetings, the handshakes, and the promises that shape markets and wars. By the 1980s, the Grove's influence was quietly institutionalized. You'd find that its membership lists overlapped significantly with powerful think tanks, like the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. Lobbyists and military contractors used the two-week event to align their agendas before Congress even resumed its sessions. Even Hollywood producers were in attendance, perhaps to ensure that America's national myths remained profitable and unmessed. The ancient redwoods echoed with the laughter of men who could move nations with a single phone call. Journalists who tried to infiltrate this secret world were often arrested or found themselves mysteriously reassigned. One investigative reporter who managed to get a job as a waiter there in 1991 described overhearing senators discussing a preemptive strategy for the Middle East years before that strategy became official U.S. doctrine. But Bohemian Grove isn't just about plotting global events. It's also about preservation, the preservation of a class, of influence, of a very particular vision of America, where power remains, in many ways, hereditary. Membership lists reveal multi-generational dynasties. The sons of oil barons drinking alongside the grandsons of defense contractors. It's a modern aristocracy, disguised as a rustic retreat. They toast to freedom while quietly tightening the invisible chains of policy. Fast forward to the year 2000. A new millennium began with another Grove meeting. The guest list included both George H.W. and George W. Bush, Henry Kissinger, Colin Powell, and senior executives from Halliburton and Enron. Just months later, America was at war, and global energy markets were thrown into chaos. Coincidence or continuity? Today, the Grove remains as active as ever, though its guest list is now hidden behind ironclad non-disclosure agreements and encrypted communications. Technology hasn't ended the secrecy. It has just made it more efficient. The ritual fire still burns each July, but now it's streamed privately through secure feeds to members who can't attend in person. That old motto, "Weaving spiders, come not here," has become a dark irony, written on the very gates that guard the world's largest web. Behind all the laughter and expensive whiskey lies something older and more primal than politics. The instinct to rule without being questioned. For the men of the Grove, secrecy isn't sinister. It's a necessity. They may believe the public can't handle the burden of truth, that democracy is just a performance, and that their job is simply to maintain the status quo. One former member, speaking anonymously, once said, "We don't make evil plans. We make sure the world stays predictable." But the question we have to ask is, predictable for whom? Every empire needs its temples. Rome had its Senate chambers. America has the Grove. Among those ancient trees, presidents rehearse sincerity, CEOs rehearse compassion, and generals rehearse restraint. By the time they return to Washington, the stage is set, their lines are memorized, and the illusion of democracy is perfectly intact. The public believes in choice, the elites believe in continuity, and in the end, both sides are satisfied. If you could stand in those woods at midnight, you'd hear a deep, powerful laughter echoing off the tree trunks. You'd smell cigar smoke and ancient moss, and see the glow of campfires reflecting off silver hair and expensive watches. And somewhere in that darkness, a voice would whisper, "Care is gone," and the others would applaud. In that moment, beneath the silent redwoods, the real America breathes unseen, unelected, and eternal. If democracy is the play, where do the actors go when the curtain falls? Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the shadows interesting, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. See you next time.